calls. Great to see all of you again. Hope everyone is doing well. Certainly want to send my well wishes as well to Steve Fink, and confident that surgery was a success. And I know he'll be back on his feet in no time. Awfully interesting the timing of it, that he chose signing day to get this thing done and leave you guys in charge. So he's trained his staff well for sure, and wish him well also. Just an update before we get into the recruiting aspect of it. Certainly been a busy, productive week and a half since I was over in Columbia. Have gotten a lot done. I'm eager to get back to Columbia, South Carolina for sure. Outside my office window, there's about 3 inches of snow on the ground out here in Oklahoma. So really eager to get back to the great state of South Carolina soon, and some of that good weather. As much as I wish I was in Columbia and have missed being there, I'm really from a football standpoint, like I said before, it was important for me to get back out here and finish out the season the right way with these guys here at Oklahoma. But I'm really glad that I did, just from a South Carolina standpoint, because I feel like I've been able to get so much done here in Norman that I maybe wouldn't have been able to get as much done in Columbia. We practice in the mornings. So once we finish practice and once we finish up coaching meetings as an offensive staff, I'm able to come in my office, shut the door, and work on nothing but South Carolina for the rest of the day and the night. So that's been really good as well. I was really disappointed that our game against West Virginia got canceled last weekend. Was certainly looking forward to competing against those guys. But what it allowed me to do is it allowed me Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, where I would have been traveling and playing in a game, to get my responsibilities done for Iowa State, our opponent this weekend in the Big 12 championship, and then allowed me a lot more time to dive into South Carolina, whether it be recruiting, coaching staff, current team. I've called probably 90% of the current players on our current team at South Carolina over the last week. The 10% that I haven't gotten to, I'm getting to soon. I'm just going down a list and calling each guy one by one and introducing myself and having some initial conversations with those guys. And I'll have those in person once I get back to Columbia next week. But I've really enjoyed talking to these guys and getting to know them and feeling their energy and their excitement about everything going forward as well. So that's been good and productive out here as well. I know these guys are back in Columbia, finished up exams well, it sounds like. So wanted to commend those guys on that. And I know they're back to work over there at the facility today. From a coaching staff standpoint, I know everyone wants all 10 names hired and released like yesterday, and I get it. We're taking our time on that for sure. Like I've talked about before, from a coaching staff standpoint, the timing is a little bit different this year than a normal head coach that gets hired because of the lateness of the season and signing day. I've certainly had conversations with people in the building in Columbia, and I've certainly had conversations with people outside the building in Columbia as well. And I really couldn't be more pleased with where we are right now from that standpoint. We had some guys that I'm interested in talking to and interested in hiring that, to be totally honest, some were coaching in games last weekend. Some are coaching in games this weekend. Some are coaching in bowl games that are being played early next week. So want to be respectful of their responsibilities, not to mention a signing day today that's important to a lot of us and guys that want to be loyal to their current schools as well. But I can tell you this, when I met with Ray Tanner, Chance Miller, and President Caslin, I presented those guys at every single position, kind of A, B, and C at every single position of potential coaches I was interested in hiring. And every single A that I had on that list is still very much in the mix to come to Columbia, and couldn't be more excited about that. And the amount of people that I've heard from that I didn't anticipate having an interest in coming to Columbia that have reached out to me since this job was announced, or my hire was announced, has blown me away. I told another media outlet the other day, and it's true. I've had sitting coordinators in every single Power 5 conference, offense and defense, that have reached out to me about potentially coming to South Carolina. And in some of those conferences, more than one sitting coordinator in those conferences, and that includes the SEC. So really excited about the interest in Carolina, and really thankful for the resources that President Caslin, our board, and Ray Tanner have given us to go out there and hire what I want to be and hope to be the best coaching staff in the entire country. So again, into recruiting, first of all, before I get into any of these specifics, I want to commend and thank the 10 coaches that are remaining in Columbia for their hard work throughout this process. I've been through it when my dad retired at Virginia Tech back in 2015 in November or late October, I guess, early November, excuse me, having to, balance a couple of different things, a signing class and their futures as well, whether it be in Columbia, South Carolina or elsewhere. And I know they've done an amazing job of maintaining and continuing to work for the University of South Carolina and recruit young men there. Jessica Jackson, who handles a lot of the stuff of on-campus recruiting for us and deals with so many of the parents of these prospects and handles a lot of the NLIs and all the paperwork, has been great. And then a huge thank you to Drew Hughes, Director of Player Personnel, for his help, impact, influence on me over the last couple of weeks, just helping me get up to speed on who these young men are that we're recruiting, who's committed to us, who's out there, where things stand, background. Couldn't be more pleased with Drew and all he's done throughout this process. So definitely want to thank those guys and really appreciate their hard work. I think it certainly says something that when I took the job, I believe there were 9 committed guys, if I'm not mistaken, when I was announced as the head coach. And we are very, very confident going forward about the potential of all 9 of those guys signing with us eventually. And that says something right there about those people and the work they've done, but it also says something about South Carolina. And in all of my conversations with these young men, I talked to them about the fact that I didn't recruit them. They committed to a previous coaching staff, but they certainly committed for reasons beyond the coaching staff. And that's the amazing opportunity at South Carolina from an athletic and academic standpoint. And all that is still there. The only thing that's different is the coaching staff, and confident that that's going to be no disrespect to anybody who was there before, but a great selling point and a great positive thing and excitement for us as well going forward as well. I want to thank the high school coaches in the great state of South Carolina and all the surrounding regions. I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of people over the last week and a half, and certainly a lot of those have been the high school football coaches across our state and surrounding states as well. Really enjoyed connecting back with those guys and talking to them. If I haven't reached out to you yet, I will be soon, and look forward to seeing and talking to all of you guys again. And I'm really excited about this class as well, that there's some in-state guys that took pride in staying home and helping us get this program to another level. They took pride in being from the state of South Carolina. One thing that we talked to all these guys about is I had the same conversations with them that I had with DJ Swearinger and Jadavion Clowney and Stephon Gilmore and Marcus Lattimore and Devontae Holloman, great players in the past that have come out of South Carolina, about staying home and bringing a championship to their home state and the pride that they would feel in doing that. So really want to commend those guys that did that for sure. And I want to thank our fan base, our these young men that we're recruiting and are signing today and that we're still recruiting. They feel the energy from the South Carolina fan base. They feel the excitement in Columbia right now. And I had so many guys that I've had conversations with over the last week and a half that have talked to me about how excited they can tell everyone is in Columbia, and they feel that energy and want to be a part of it. So we're all in this thing together. These recruits, our fan base, our coaching staff, our program, and want to thank those guys as well for that. Also excited where we are today, but we're certainly not done. As soon as I get off this call with you guys, I'm right back on the phones, because there's some guys out there that we're still recruiting that I'm optimistic that will sign with us during this signing period, and then obviously going into January and February as well. It is a small class right now. I understand that rankings wise, when you sign as small a class as we are, your ranking's not going to be very high, and that's okay. I didn't want to come in as the head coach and all of a sudden say, how many guys do we have committed? How many guys do we have scholarships for? And then all of a sudden just go sign guys to sign guys. It was important to me that we got the right guys, the right fit in here. So this small class is by design. There's some key targets that aren't signing today, and that's okay. We had conversations with them about continuing to develop this relationship and getting to know each other throughout the month of January, going into February signing period. We're going to be thorough on this evaluation process, and we've got a detailed, organized plan to attack the next month. through high school with his high school recruiting as well. And the thing that I'm excited about is the numbers and the flexibility that we have going forward. With this being a small signing class today, I don't know what other scholarship situations are across the country with other colleges, but I can't imagine there's anyone out there has a better situation as far as scholarships available, initial scholarships available to use over the next month going into February, where we can really improve our team. We're going to have a large amount of scholarships available that we can improve this team if they're the right fit, for sure, through the transfer portal, through high school recruiting as well for the guys that don't sign today. So I cannot wait. We're already hard at work on it. We've been working on that since I got the job, but going to be back on the phone with those guys as well as soon as we get off this call and going into February as well. So apologize for the long opening statement, but certainly wanted to get those guys or talk about those things and make sure we address that before we got into that. And as far a few words about these guys, and then I'll get into to y'all's questions on the guys that have signed so far. Obviously, Colton Gauthier, quarterback from over in Georgia, our very first signee this morning. So pretty cool that as the head coach at South Carolina, he'll always be the very first signee that came in, really productive football player, 3-year starter that's thrown for over 2,000 yards every single season as a starter. And the one thing that I want to commend him on that I'm really excited about is he's the kind of guy that is a leader that you can build a program around. He did an amazing job of keeping this class intact, an amazing job of recruiting other players as well that weren't committed, and really excited about what he brings to the table and having him over there as well. Marcellus Dial from Georgia Military, another South Carolina guy, in-state kid originally from Woodruff. Defensive back, there's a lot of major positions of need, but defensive back is certainly an area that we have got to improve our depth and get some more guys in there. I've really enjoyed visiting with him. We've had so many, just like all these guys, so many FaceTime calls and regular phone calls over the last couple of weeks. And his energy, it doesn't go up and down. Every time we talk to him, he's excited, he's energized, he's got a great smile on his face. He's got some length at the position that allows us some flexibility from in playing press coverage on defense as a defensive back, playing off. Was a great long jumper in high school as well, so he's got some great athleticism. Jordan Davis, offensive lineman from Creekside High School in Georgia. He's another one that's got a lot of positional versatility. Can play offensive tackle, can play either side, has played either side at tackle, and then also can play offensive guard as well. Got a lot of upside and potential as well. Very, very big man. But has athleticism and is a guy that his best football is in front of him. And I could say that about a lot of these guys. We want to have an amazing strength and conditioning program that's going to develop our players in the weight room and on the football field. And a lot of these guys we feel like are certainly raw and are just now scratching the surface of what they can be from a football standpoint. Sam Reynolds, great athlete from over in Alabama. He's a guy that's just a playmaker, can do a lot of different things, can play in the slot at the wide receiver position, can be a third down back. As a guy like myself that has some special teams background, I'm excited about his potential in the return game and what he brings to that. Comes from a great program in Thompson High School over there that just won a state championships, that he's used to winning. And I like that fact that we've got a lot of guys that are used to winning and have been successful as well. So we're really excited about Sam being part of the program. Mega Blake from up the road in South Point. Anytime you get a player from South Point in high school, you know you've done something well. And there's been a great long line of great players that have come out of South Point High School, and he's just the next one, and I hope the next of many, many more for sure. Comes from a great program and is getting coached by a great player up there in Devontae Holloman, who I was around before when I was an assistant coach at South Carolina. And I've really enjoyed talking to Devontae quite a bit over the last few weeks, and want to commend him on what a great program he's running up there as well. But excited about Omega and what he brings to the table. Multi-talented, can do a lot of things, very productive. And he's a guy that you really enjoy talking to. I think he and I FaceTime back and forth like 7 times on Sunday about different things, just calling and him wanting to talk and ask questions and things like that. So really excited about his desire to join the program. Nick Barrett is a defensive lineman from North Carolina, great size, 6'3.5", 325 pounds, really athletic, great length, has long arms. That's what you're looking for at the defensive line position. He's a guy that can play inside and has a lot of great, initial quickness. When you watch defensive linemen, being able to see their get off, how they are able to strike people and knock offensive linemen back, that jumps off the tape with him. Really solid, high character guy that's going to be an asset for us, not only on the field and in the locker room. And he's a guy, because they didn't play high school football up there this year, that we really feel like as a staff that if he had played, I don't put a whole lot of stock in where guys are ranked and things like that, but he's a guy that certainly would have skyrocketed, in our opinion, up the rankings if he had played. And then Juju McDowell from over in Georgia, great program at Lee County that's still making a run in the playoffs. So we continue to wish them luck as they finish up their run in the playoffs. But just a heck of a playmaker, versatile, tough, dynamic with the ball in his hands. He can be a weapon out of the backfield as well, which we're excited about. Got an edge to himself and certainly has some speed as well. And really pumped about him being a Gamecock and his the instant impact he's going to have on the field. And then I want to commend these guys as well. Some of these guys that I just mentioned, and again, we're not done. We're having this press conference as it stands. There's still some decisions that are going to be made today, and I'm hoping there's going to be a few more announcements as we go over the next couple of days. But a couple of these guys that I just mentioned, when I took over as the head coach, they had no plans to sign in December. In fact, they were going to wait until February and flat out told me that. And over our conversations over the last week and a half, a couple of these guys decided to go ahead and sign today, which I am so thankful for and excited about. That, just in our conversations, they had that trust in me, that they believed in me and said, let's go ahead and get this done today, because we believe in where this program's going and we don't want to wait until February. We're in and we believe in what you're saying and we want to be part of it. And then the fact that all these guys, like I said earlier, stayed committed, that had opportunities to go elsewhere. Every single one of these guys, they gave me an opportunity to talk to them. We've had multiple conversations and they're all on board and ready to go full speed ahead and can't wait to get started on 2021. And that's been my message to those guys. And that's been my message to the current players on the team as well, that, what's in the past is in the past. Our current team at South Carolina needs to finish out 2020 the right way. But once 2021, once we hit that January 1st of that calendar year, we are full speed ahead and looking forward and moving forward and can't wait. There's great energy. There's great excitement. These guys see that. The current players on our team see that. And as excited as I was to be named the head football coach a couple of weeks ago, I'm even more excited now after visiting with these guys and seeing where we're going. So with that, I'll be glad to answer any of your questions and look forward to visiting with you.
All right, just a friendly reminder to everyone to unmute yourself before asking a question. And if you do ask a question, please turn your video camera on if it is off. And with that, we will go to David Cloninger with the first question today.
Appreciate you doing this, Shane. Just what is the challenge of coming into a program as a new hire and having to get your arms around this kind of class in just 11 days with this early signing period in effect?
Yeah, thanks, David. Good to see you. It's been a challenge, because a lot of these guys, I'll be honest with, I didn't have – a lot of these guys were recruiting. I have relationships with. So many of these guys I really hadn't for different reasons. So they've got uncertainty, and the coach they committed to was let go. They know there's a new coaching staff coming in, so they have questions. All they know is the conversations they're having with me. They don't know exactly what the coaching staff's going to look like going forward in Columbia. So you're trying to sell them and talk to them about your vision, what you want your program to look like, what it is going to be about on the field, how I see them fitting in. So it takes a lot of trust. And there were a lot of phone calls with these young men and their families, and then other ones that we're trying to bring to Columbia as well. And really, it was just me just trying to be honest and real and as genuine as I could be. And if I didn't have an answer that they asked, I'd be truthful and tell them I don't know. And I'm thankful that these guys saw that. But it's certainly, there have been a lot of phone calls and a lot of conversations and text messages and things like that. You're trying to do 2 years worth of work in about 10 days. And that is definitely a challenge, but it's been enjoyable. And with all these guys, we're dealing with really solid young men, I think, that that have a great head on their shoulders and are excited about where we're headed.
Greg Hadley.
Hey Shane, you kind of talked about the scholarship flexibility of not moving forward. As you move forward into February and maybe look at the transfer portal, do you have a sense or any sort of idea in mind of, you know, what that kind of divide will look like? Do you think you'll focus more on high school kids, JUCO kids, transfers? Do you have any sense there?
Nah, the very best players that are out there. You know, if you're a young man out here listening to this press conference or see this press conference or read about this press conference, and you have a tremendous opportunity at the University of South Carolina to make an immediate impact on and off the field. And, you know, we're not just going out there just collecting talent and signing guys to sign guys. I mean, they've got to be a fit for what we want this program to be about going forward. And I think there's going to be a strong mix of high school prospects, and there's going to be a strong mix of some potential transfers that are a little bit older that are coming from college programs already. A lot of that obviously is going to depend on the need at the position and what's the priority and things like that. But, you know, when we finish and I get on the phone this afternoon and the rest of tonight, I'm going to be on the phone with some potential transfers, and I'm going to be on the phone with a lot of high school prospects as well. And, you know, we're not closing the door on anything. If they can help us and are going to be a fit for what we want this program to be about, then certainly we're not closing the door on anything or shutting the door on anything for sure.
Colin Taylor.
Yeah, Shane, I guess you kind of talked a little bit about cornerbacks and building some depth there. I'm just curious, when you start recruiting and building the rest of this class, what are some positions you'd like to see improve, or where are you kind of focusing your attention as you build this group?
Yeah, I mean, there's not a position out there that we're saying we're good. I mean, and I don't mean that in a negative way. We're trying to improve the depth, and we're trying to improve the competition at every single position. And whatever may be a strength, we're trying to make it even stronger and an even bigger strength. But, you know, certainly I think you look at it, and you guys know, I mean, we need to improve the depth at the wide receiver position. You know, that's an area we've got to continue to get more and more bodies and find more and more playmakers at. There's some really good young players in the program right now already, which I'm excited about getting to work with, and I know they're excited about as well. And we've got to add depth at that position also. Obviously, the linebacker position, there's going to be some. That's certainly going to be a thin position as we sit here today, whether it be through graduation or whatever else may be the scenarios out there with the linebackers. But we've got to create depth and get some more bodies at linebacker for sure. We're under there from a scholarship number standpoint where we'd like to be. And then defensive back, corners, safeties, guys that can cover. With the way that offenses now are right now being spread out, you've got to have multiple guys back there, and all those guys are able to impact special teams as well, because your core special teams guys are going to be your linebackers, your defensive backs, and the more of those guys you have, the better you're going to be, because that's going to help your special teams units as well. And certainly pass rushers up front. That's a need for us. We've got some great defensive linemen in our program, outside linebackers that can go and are extremely talented. And we just need to get some more guys in there to help those guys as well also.
Ben Briner.
Hey, Shane, congrats on inking the first part of the first class. I kind of wanted to ask, when you first, get hired, what is that download process like of sort of absorbing the information of what the roster is, what it needs, how much of this group is there? And does the small size of the class currently take maybe a little pressure off because you have maybe a smaller short-term goal, can focus on that, and then can sort of turn to how you want to kind of spend those extra, I guess it's 14 or so spots?
Yeah, thanks, Ben. No, it was good question. I spent a lot of time when I was over in Columbia. I got there on that Sunday, and Sunday was a whirlwind. But, Sunday and Monday, whenever I did have some time, sat down and first of all started with the current South Carolina roster and literally just went through every single player on the team, getting feedback on those guys from a football standpoint, from an academic standpoint, from a social standpoint. So that was the initial thing, because I wanted to know exactly what we had on the roster. And I knew a lot of those guys because we recruited them here at Oklahoma. We're at Georgia. So many of them I knew already, but it was just kind of getting an update on where they are now in regards to the South Carolina program. Then I've had conversations with the majority of those guys as well. So that helps me learn more about the roster. And then it was, all right, let's talk about the guys that are committed, and watching video on every single player that's committed to us or was committed and has now signed, getting a feel for those guys and what our needs are in recruiting. And then it was, okay, these guys decommitted and they're still out there. Let's watch their video. And then it was, okay, these guys have not been committed to us, but they're certainly they're out there right now that we've got relationships with, that we're trying to recruit, and researching those guys and finding out more and more about those guys. So you had a bunch of different dynamics at play that I was trying to navigate through as I got over there. And that was good. My 2 days in Columbia, and then getting back over here to Norman, I really had a chance to dive in on that. Joe Lyle, our video director at South Carolina, he gave me a laptop that had all these guys' videos downloaded on it, where I could watch them at any time, and just continuing to learn more and more about these guys as players and people. And so that was certainly the short term, but also keeping in mind, you want to sign a big class. I'd love to be on this call right now talking about 20 guys that we signed. That's a top 10 recruiting class. And hopefully that'll be next year and each year from then on out. But when you've only been on the job for a week and a half, there's not a whole lot that you can get done in a week and a half. And we certainly exhausted every opportunity, resource that we could to add some guys to this class. And I'm confident that we still will. But also keeping in mind the long-term goals, that we want to get a full coaching staff in here and have those 10 assistant coaches and myself and the rest of our support staff evaluating these players and making sure that we get the players that fit our systems offensively, defensively, and special teams going into January once we have that staff finalized also.
Dick Cox.
Hey, Shane, Merry Christmas to you and your family. And just wanted
Thanks.
to ask, of the players you signed today, do you know how many of them will actually be enrolling in January?
Right now, and this could change, but right now we anticipate 4 of them. So pretty much over half those guys, and that could grow as well, depending on how this signing class changes between, when this call's over in the next couple of days. But right now we anticipate 4 guys being here in January.
Hale McGranahan.
Hey, Coach, I know some of the circumstances with the NCAA and how things could maybe evolve over the next month or so with numbers and such. How will you guys try to account for that and maybe working with your 25 that you can sign, and I guess ultimately the 85? Do you have any kind of sense of how that might kind of take shape over these next
weeks? We've got plans for all those, all kinds of different scenarios. We've got the foundation laid, and we'll, take things as they come for sure in regards to the 25 initial scholarships, the 85 that you can, totally have on scholarship, and understanding that, things are going to change as well. And they change daily, they change weekly, they change monthly, and understanding that you got to be, Coach Spurrier used to always tell me, Beamer, stay flexible when it came to like recruiting numbers and things like that. And it's always stayed with me, and we certainly will as well as this thing changes. But we've got plans for all the different scenarios that could come into play over the next couple months.
Josh Kendall.
Hey, Shane.
Hey, Josh.
Do you have an idea yet of when you will be moving, quote unquote, full time here, other than having to go back for, family and moving, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, as soon as possible. My wife and kids, we play in that game on Saturday down in Dallas, and I've been on a plane first thing Sunday morning, and my family's coming with me on Sunday. My wife's got, she's in charge of the housing and schools and all that stuff as well. And she's going to spend all week over there with me and the kids next week, and trying to get a sense of our direction going forward. I want them there as soon as possible, and they want to be there as soon as possible. My 7-year-old son, he's playing basketball right now with his little youth team. So he wants to try and finish a championship here before they finish up. My 10-year-old daughter, she's involved in dance and wants to finish out a couple things with them going into the new year. But they're eager to get to Columbia. I want to get them to Columbia, and in my mind, I'm full speed ahead and I'm there for good. And there'll be some times where I'll have to kind of go back and forth to Norman as a dad and a husband
Right.
for. I'm hopeful that won't be that much longer, and they'll be in Columbia as soon as possible. Oklahoma, for example, Lincoln hired me in mid-January, and they moved a month later. Same thing when I moved from Virginia to Athens. They were there by the end of February, and I'm hopeful that they'll be here, be in Columbia even earlier than that this time.
And are you still, it sounded like the last time we talked to you, you were in support of this team playing in a bowl game. Would that still be your position, or do you have a strong feeling one way or the other?
No, I defer to Mike Bobo and Ray Tanner and the administration on that one. From a selfish standpoint, I love it because it gives them another opportunity to go out there and compete. And then from a selfish standpoint, just for me, I'm excited about being able to get over there next week and watch practice and get around these guys and get to know them and, see them on the field and watch them practice and help me learn more and more about these guys as individuals and as a position groups and teams. So I'm excited about it from that standpoint. And I get it. I understand there's mixed feelings when it comes to that, but a lot of the guys that I've talked to on the team, they're excited about the opportunity to go out there and compete one more time. And I think they're energized by the fact that I'll be in Columbia next week and having a chance to watch those guys each day also.
Let's go to Michael and Anna.
Hey, Shane. You were just talking about your kids, and I know you mentioned last week just how excited they were about you going to Carolina and then playing Sandstorm and things like that. And just curious, while you're FaceTiming with recruits and players and doing all these calls, did your kids try to get in on the action at all? Did they try to hop on the phone, or did they ever interrupt you or anything? And then also just curious, when you were a kid and your father was out recruiting, do you have any specific memories of maybe him hosting recruit or just out on the trail?
In regards to my kids, yeah, they've certainly been involved. They've been invested. I've tried to make as many of the phone calls that I needed to make from here in my office at our football facility. But I'm also a dad and a husband, and I want to be present with those guys as well. So I try to get home early enough at night where I could see my kids before they go to bed, but also do some work. So yeah, my 7-year-old, he definitely jumped on a few FaceTimes last week. He's got about 3 mini Carolina footballs that he's gotten already from people. And he's always got one in his hand walking around the house. I haven't seen him since I got the job without a Carolina football in his hands. And he definitely got on a few phone calls last week and introduced himself to those players. He's young enough where he doesn't quite understand how this thing works. And he keeps asking me which players from South Carolina I'm taking with me. And I wish it was that simple. There's a few that I'd love to bring, but it doesn't quite work that way. And but they're still excited and invested and really looking forward to being more and more invested in them. In regards to growing up, not really. I can remember my dad taking me to some high school basketball games and things like that. And I just kind of watched and learned and would go with him just as a son wanting to spend time with my dad. That was pretty cool, being able to jump in a car with him and drive, an hour and a half to Lynchburg, Virginia to go watch Anthony Poindexter play a basketball game or something like, or Brian Jennings, a guy that played tight end at Virginia Tech. I remember that. And I do remember one time I was a junior or senior in high school, and they were recruiting a great quarterback out of Pennsylvania that was about my age because we were both in high school at the same time. And my dad said, "Hey, he's the son of a coach, and I really think you'd enjoy getting to know him. We're going to dinner tonight. He's in town on his official visit. I'd love for you to come with me and have a chance to sit down and get to know him." And that great quarterback's name was Brandon Streeter, that went on to have a pretty good career at Clemson and is doing a great job up there as their quarterback's coach as well. So, kind of full circle how that's come around. But I do remember that dinner with Brandon and my dad and his dad. But, just little memories like that, being able to watch him do things.
John Del Bianco.
Hey, Shane, thanks for doing this. Is it odd, or does it kind of speak to your age now that you got a guy like Devontae Holloman coaching at a program like South Point? Is it odd a decade later?
Yeah, it makes me feel old. It doesn't surprise me at all knowing what Devontae was about as a player, what he's about as a man, and obviously as a coach. It's certainly odd. You look at those guys and you see a guy like a Ryan Suckup that's had a long NFL career that was there when I got there, and the NFL careers that so many of these guys have had that are that are successful, but then a guy like Devontae that's having a successful career as a high school coach. So doesn't surprise me at all knowing what he's about, and certainly makes me, feel a little bit older, but excited for Devontae and excited to continue to work with him and his great program.
And if I could follow up about the kid you're getting from his program, Omega Blake, just what do you see in him as a receiver, kind of fitting the mold of what you want at that position and in that offense?
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that's kind of done a little bit of everything. Played some quarterback, played some wide receiver, played some defensive back, can run. He's explosive. He's athletic. That's what's exciting to me, is being able to get a guy that's really versatile and can do so many different things. And then the fact that he's used to winning and comes from a great program that we know has had so many great players and has great players right now, has us really, really pumped, and a guy that I'm, really excited to get around and be with. He was one early on that he was fired up because he heard Coach Frank Martin's announcement that he was my new defensive backs coach. So Omega actually called me and was like, man, that's awesome that Coach Martin's going to be the new DB coach. And I had to break it to him that we haven't quite gotten that thing finalized yet, that there may be a few hangups like Coach Martin's basketball season preventing him from taking over full time. But he's a great young man, and I'm really excited about getting to work with him.
Thank you.
Yep.
Let's go to Phil Kornblue.
Yeah. Hey, Shane.
Hey, Phil.
A couple of quick questions for you. When you go shopping on the transfer market, are there particular positions you're looking for, or is it just who's interested and who you might be able to get? And then secondly, from your conversations with veteran players, now that they're going home and getting away from things, have you gotten any word from anybody else that they're not coming back? They want to transfer or opt out, whatever you want to call it? Or what kind of feeling are you getting from that group about the majority of them coming back?
First question in regards to the transfer, I wouldn't say there's any position that we're going into saying that, that we're targeting initially. I mean, those positions that I mentioned a few minutes ago that are needs, but I think any position that you have a chance to improve the roster from top to bottom, we want to do that. And whether that's a transfer or a high school prospect, junior college prospect, whatever that might be, we're exhausting all avenues on that one for sure. And there's not a position that we're not, looking for from a transfer thing, but I wouldn't say there's one position that we're saying we got to have a transfer there as well. It kind of all works together. And then my conversations with all the players on the team have been, I couldn't be more pleased, to be honest with you. And I understand as things go, there may be some guys that decide that this isn't the fit and it isn't the place for them. And I hope that doesn't happen, but I've not been given any indication from anyone that that's the way they're thinking right now. I've had multiple conversations with a lot of these guys. I mentioned that I've reached out to all of them, and there's some that I've talked to multiple times. Some guys that have just been calling and texting me daily just to give me an update. Right before I started this, I looked at my phone and I had 2 or 3 text messages from some of the current players just giving me an update on their workouts and how great things are going in Columbia, which I'm pumped about as well. I've had some guys, some seniors that, obviously they've got another year of eligibility if they want it, or they can move on because they've graduated and they're seniors. And a couple of those guys reached out to me to say that initially they had planned on moving on and not playing another year, but they're excited and they're energized and they're ready to roll and they want to come back. So that's been exciting for me to hear as well, where the team is from that mindset. And I understand that that could potentially change, but everything's been positive from my conversations with them so far.
Let's go to John Whittle.
You actually just touched on what I was going to ask you. I was going to ask if any seniors had expressed that they definitely wanted to come back, and if you can name who they were. And in addition to that, does having some of those guys come back change what you want to do, change priority at all on what you want to do from a recruiting standpoint, whether it's a transfer market or otherwise?
Not really. Yes. So yes, to answer your question, I have had some, like I just, mentioned to Phil. I'll, out of their privacy, I'll let them announce it, when they feel comfortable doing that. I don't want to speak for those guys and what their plans are as a family and things like that. But really pleased with the guys that have told me they want to come back and play another year. I'm really excited about that. And no, not really. Obviously there'll be a lot of roster management that has to take place going forward in the next couple of years. I'm aware of that and understand that, but it'll all work itself out. And we're focused on the short term for sure, but the long term and making the decisions, the best decisions for South Carolina going forward into 2021 and beyond.
Looks like we've got about 4 questions left in the queue, so we'll get to those and then we'll let Coach run because we know he's busy and just got some meetings to get to. So we'll go back to David Cloninger with the next one.
Shane, a couple for you, just real quick. One of, I think 2 guys are still committed but didn't sign today. Do you still feel pretty good that you'll get those guys in February?
I do. I've had positive conversations with every committed prospect and really, feel good about where we are going forward. You've followed this long enough and kept up with recruiting that you're never surprised by anything, but I'm really feel good about where we are with all these guys.
And also just with the transfer portal and then not being able to face-to-face recruit due to COVID, do you just kind of have to take a flyer on some guys from your conversations, from their film and not be able to look into them as much as you can during a
Yeah, a little bit. For a lot of these guys, David, a lot of these guys I recruited out of high school. Some of these guys that are in the portal or could be coming in the portal, I already have relationships with, and have had solid relationships with them, and they chose another school for whatever reason. But we've always had a good relationship. So some of those guys I'm familiar with from that background or from that standpoint. We're going to make sure any person that we bring into the program that we do a thorough evaluation of everything before we bring them in. We're just not looking at names and being like, yep, let's go get him, and him. They got to make sure they fit with our culture and they're going to fit in our locker room and that they're a good fit from that standpoint. And it is different because of not being able to do visits, but jumping on Zoom calls, doing virtual visits so they can find out more and more, about our program as well. But, making sure they got to be great people first. I mean, we want great people that want to be at Carolina, like I talked about in the first press conference, and nothing has changed regardless of where they may be coming from. So it is a little bit different for sure. But you still can, exhaust every avenue and finding out about these guys, whether you already have a relationship with them or talking to high school coaches, talking to the coaches at the program they're coming from, talking to their family, people that are around them, just like you would any other prospect, which, in a lot of ways it's been that way too. I mean, we here at Oklahoma today. I mean, we signed a lot of guys today because Oklahoma recruits so much nationally. We signed a lot of guys that we've never met, or Lincoln Riley's never met. Obviously the position coaches have, but a lot of these guys, Coach Riley's never met in person. It's been recruiting them through Zoom since March, so it's a little bit different and it'll continue to be that way for the time being, hopefully not too much longer.
Let's go back to Ben Bronner.
Hey, Shane, kind of 2 questions. The first one is, with the transfer portal, how do things sort of shift timing wise, where unlike high school, kids can kind of jump in there at different times. So, a guy might become available in April or May as compared to usually. And then also, you mentioned kind of having your A, B, and C sort of depth chart of potential coaches. How does that sort of process mix with the conversations you've been able to have with guys that are already in the building that you could potentially retain? And how do you sort of look at the retention process of a few coaches that are still here?
Yeah. As far as the coaches that are still there, I'm in contact with those guys and talking to them, fairly regularly. Obviously, like I mentioned at the beginning of the call, they've done a great job of maintaining and keeping this class together and continuing to recruit for South Carolina. Not, all of them not necessarily knowing what their future holds, which I, so much respect for those guys and what they're about. And really everything's the same from what I talked about in the press conference. I talked to them the very first day I got to Columbia. I met with all of them and the majority of those conversations were I'm not closing the door on anything. I'm going to take my time on the staff. I'm going to focus on recruiting and the signing day over the next week and a half and take my time making sure we get the right 10 guys in place. And I knew that was tough because it's some uncertainty and they want to know about their futures. And I get it because I've been in that situation before as an assistant coach as well. But I am going to take my time and nothing has changed. And I've communicated with those guys that a lot of that is going to depend on coordinator hires and potential guys that those coordinators may want to bring with them. A lot of that is going to, depend on that I've told them that I may be talking to other guys at your position, and not necessarily that I'm going to offer them the job, but just kind of seeing how this thing goes. So it's part of the business. These guys get it, and it's a balancing act. But confident that I'm trying to handle it the best way that I can. There's no easy way. There's no right way. But I'm just trying to be honest and real and genuine, and keep them abreast and communicating with them as things go on that one. And I'm sorry, Ben, what was the first question about the transfers, I think?
Just how do you kind of approach it with the fact that unlike in high school where you just, all the guys are on kind of the same timeline, a lot of these transfers.
Yeah. Just it's daily, I mean, every time I pull up this cell phone, I've got a text on there from somebody that so-and-so is in the portal, here's his number, his mom's name, here's his coach's name. And we're not chasing after every single guy, but a lot of these guys, it's okay. I know him, and the portal, or it may be a high school coach reaching out to say that he's got a player that is going to be entering the portal, and would we have any interest in things like that? So, again, it's we want to make sure we have the right guys, and it's not just okay, however many scholarships we still have available in January. If we don't use all those in January, it's okay, because things are going to happen, like you said, after spring practice. Some guys every year, they decide to leave programs after the spring for different reasons and things like that. So I think you always want to have some initial scholarships available if you need them. And we'll continue to try and improve the roster scholarship by scholarship going forward. And I can't stress again how excited I am about the guys in that building as well. And that's what I've told the players in our conversations is we're not far away. And we're really, really close, in my opinion. And I'm excited about the young talent and the excitement and the energy in the program right now. Excited about spring practice for us and all-season workouts for us going forward. And then if we have a way to, improve our roster through recruiting and potential transfers, then we're going to do that also.
Let's go to Dick Cox.
Shane, I know you're a man of strong faith. Can you talk a little bit about your faith in taking this giant leap of faith you've taken in taking the job at South Carolina?
Well, let's see. I appreciate you saying that. I see it as a giant opportunity, from my standpoint, and what an amazing opportunity I've been given from the leadership at the University of South Carolina to be the head football coach at the University of South Carolina and in the Southeastern Conference. That's what I see. And I talked about it, Dick, in the opening press conference that, people say, why can't South Carolina, you can't be successful at South Carolina? And my question is, why not? I mean, tell me what we don't have that we need to compete with every other team in the SEC. And, I'm a positive energy, glasses half full kind of guy. And that's just the way I see it. I see it as an awesome opportunity. Is it a challenge? Absolutely. Do we have a ways to go? Absolutely. But I am so eager to continue to, move this train forward and keep this thing rolling. And couldn't be more excited about that opportunity.
All right. Last question for today goes to Hale McGranahan.
Coach, I know obviously 21 is the focus, but you've got 22 and 23 and so on and so forth. Have you tried to juggle trying to get up to speed as best you can with those guys as you try to focus on this class?
Yeah, I should have mentioned that, Hale, too. I'm rookie mistake on that one. Hard at work on the 2022 class as well. I mean, this morning I was texting every 2022 prospect that you could think of. I've spent the morning texting them. Coach Riley pushed our practice back a couple hours, so we as Oklahoma could handle signing day here before practice this morning. And in the downtime that I had before practice, I was reaching out to every 2022 there was, and had some great text messages back and forth with those guys as well. I've got a couple phone calls scheduled tonight with some class of 2022 prospects as well, and finishing out 2021 the right way. But we are working just as hard on 2022 and beyond going forward as well. And a lot of those 2022 guys I've been hard at work on already at Oklahoma, national guys, because we did not sign a tight end today at Oklahoma. So really, we weren't after a tight end in this year's class. So pretty much as an assistant coach since the beginning of the year, all I've been doing is recruiting 2022s, on the East Coast and throughout the country. So it was great to be able to reach out to those guys over the last week and say, hey, I've been recruiting you for Oklahoma, and Oklahoma's a great place. I'm not saying it's not, but you need to start thinking about South Carolina now too. And that response has been overwhelmingly positive also. Thank you, Michael.
Thanks for the time, Coach.
Thanks,
Yep.
Shane. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Merry Christmas.
Thanks, Shane. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you guys. Appreciate you being on. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to you guys as well. Thanks for your time.
Same to you.
Thank you.